A very good morning to you from Höljes in Sweden. We're in Värmland. It was a beautiful day on Thursday, sunny and decent temperatures, 20 degrees. It was almost approaching summer. As you can see, we've gone firmly back into spring, winterish mode. It's pouring with rain here. It certainly has been overnight. The track's wet and we're expecting some brilliant action today. My name's Andrew Coley. This is Hal Ridge. Hal, it was good fun on Thursday. I think with back to a normal format, 2 heats a day over the course of this weekend for round 4 of RallyX Nordic, and some tricky conditions now. I'm expecting it to be pretty cool again. Yeah, it was pretty intense on Thursday, wasn't it? Having everything crammed into one day, like a proper national rallycross event. Now it's more of a traditional longer format, and yeah, it gives everyone much more time to think about stuff and perfect what they're doing. Certainly does. Now, one guy who's got a bit too much time, unfortunately, to think about things is Lars Anderson. So we had a big crash on Thursday. This is it here. So you can see Fraser McConnell on the inside, and Lars Anderson came in. Fraser was 110% up the inside. That contact broke Lars's steering, and here you go. Big hit. So a lot of damage to the car. Lars, though, is okay, and we can hear from him now.
Hello, guys. Lars Anderson here. I just want to check in and say hello and tell you that I'm okay. Luckily, I can still watch rallycross from my sofa back home, live on the TV. And good luck to all of the drivers in Höljes this weekend, and stay safe.
Lars, wishing you all the best, mate. Sorry to see what happened. How good to see he's okay at home, but shaken. That was a big crash.
It was massive, wasn't it? You could tell the size of the impact by the front corner coming off at the moment he hit the bank. Great to see him back home. Obviously, the car's not in great shape, but he's doing okay and is going to watch the action with us.
Lars, good to have you with us. Let us know on social media where you guys are watching from. I say all the RallyX Nordic channels. You can find myself and Hal Ridge as well. We've got a special guest in the studio, in a rallycross legend. Jussi Pinamäki is going to come and join us for a bit of commentary action as we go through the early stages of round 4. We're going to start with Crosscar Junior. Now, if you didn't join us on Thursday, I understand some of you are at work on Thursday. That's terrible. You should have not been at work. You should have been watching RallyX Nordic, but it's fine. You can keep up. Well, in fact, you can catch up with the action on YouTube if you want to, but you certainly keep up with the action today by staying with us. We'll talk you through the various classes as they come through. This is Crosscar Junior. First one is Isak Attenmar, Lauri Hallinen, Jonathan Julalami, Pontus Oskarsson, and Joachim Lundolander. We are actually missing one of our drivers. I saw there are only 4 cars on the grid. Junior Crosscar, basically, drivers can drive from age 11. And I think we've got an 11. I think it's Lauri Hallinen, isn't it, who's 11, who was in the studio on Thursday with about 1 kilo of licorice, some of which Andreas Backerud immediately ate. Actually, Jussi, we can probably ask you about this. You Finnish people, you quite enjoy a bit of licorice, don't you?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
What's this all about? I mean, at Kuvalo, of course, where we had a World Championship event last year, there's a huge licorice scene.
Yeah, this company which is on board with Lauri as well. They come from Kouvola, and it's a big thing there, but I don't know where it all started, but it is a big thing in Finland for sure.
Big things in Finland, licorice among other things. And so is vodka. My producer is telling me in my head now that's a terrible thing to say. We're painting the entire country with the same brush here. I'll tell you what else is big in Finland: motorsport. Obviously, you're here with the GRX squad, running that team with Marcus Gronholm. You've got Niklas Gronholm and Christian Sabo here this weekend. The conditions are a little bit different than they were on Thursday.
Yeah, they are very different, but that's actually really good, because the reason we are here is just to prepare for the coming main season and the various conditions. It's better for us, and we can hopefully learn more and get more better feeling for the drivers as well.
I think we can see the juniors here taking some really interesting lines, Hal, around the velodrome, and that's kind of typical of these conditions, isn't it? But I'm really impressed to see them hunting for the grip.
Yeah, a lot of them do karting as well, don't they? And there's often an alternative line in karting where you're not on the ideal racing line to find the traction. And because these guys are so young, they're maybe not stuck in the groove of knowing what the traditional line is. So you see all sorts of different variation in the junior cars. But the conditions are looking like they're going to be quite consistent today. It's not raining right at the moment, but it's rained heavily overnight. You'll see it was dry on Thursday, and I guess you want it to be consistently wet today, so the conditions aren't changing every time, and you can see what's happening with the setup and the changes you make.
Yeah, but even if it's not raining all the time, and even if it appears that the condition is the same in rallycross, the track is never the same twice. So you know, it gets more muddy, the gravel transfers more and more to the tarmac, and that makes it even more slippery. So it's hard to really to compare between the two heats or qualifyings or so, but that's how the game is always, and that's what we need to learn and study.
Even with testing with rallycross, you look at a set of tyres and the fact that most people only use them for 2 runs for something which is really indicative of ultimate pace. And then you're going out and the track changes anyway. I mean, arguably, I think it's one of the hardest disciplines to test for, because it's a 4-lap run. You know, you send an F3 car out and do a 20-lap run on a set of medium tyres. There's a lot of data there, but it's 4 laps and then the tyres are starting to overheat. It's tough for you guys.
Yeah, and ultimately, I guess it's also it's always up to the driver feeling in the end. Of course, we try to learn and gather as much data as possible, but the driver feeling is the key, and that we need to search.
And when we spoke to Nicholas the other day, he said that him and Christian Sabo's in the car this weekend have quite similar setups, but that him and Timmer are pretty much night and day in terms of settings. The cars are just not the same, he says. Him and Timmer run quite different settings.
Yeah, that's correct. They are a bit more similar on setup and driving technique-wise as a bit closer to each other. So hopefully they can help each other well.
Lunderlander has taken the first race. That's Joachim Lunderlander. 4th in the semi in Neeson, and then 5th in the semi Neeson 2. Trying to see where Joachim was this time. 10th, P10. Made it through to the semi-final. That was on Thursday, of course, for round 3 of RallyX Nordic. You join us for a round rallycross weekend we've had since we were here for the Magic Weekend with RallyX Nordic last year. 4:03.
30 seconds slower than the Q1 fastest time on Thursday. It just shows quite how slippery the track is, and like Jussi said, it's not just the loose sections, but it's the tarmac too, especially when, you know, the loose here is full of dust decks as well, and that's very, very slippery when it gets wet and dragged onto the tarmac sections.
Yeah, making that whole place just that little bit trickier. Alex Gustafsson on the inside of this one. Alex was the winner on Thursday. We've then got Rasmus Persson, Lucas Anderson, double winner. Oliver Lidman and Eric Nilsson on the outside. So I would argue you need to watch, to be fair, Persson's quick. They're all quick, but the championship front runners are P1 and P3 on the grid. A lot of wheel spin in slot number 3, heading backwards. Persson seems to have got the best traction off the line, moving out slightly, trying to give her best line into turn 1, and in fact loses out there to Nilsson. Nilsson's come around for the outside line. Straight into the Joker lap is
Gustafsson.
Yeah, Gustafsson's gone in. Good move, I think, having lost out at the start.
Yeah, I spoke to him briefly after first practice. A big hook of the curb on the right-hander in the Joker lap there. He was really happy with the conditions, actually. He said the cross car's really suiting him and these wet conditions. The 2 car-controlled cars go side by side as we head up into the velodrome. Look at the rotation. It's so hard to find the grip levels and work out how and you see is it Persson around the outside. You know, there is a lot of grip on the outside as well. Yeah, it's an exploratory exercise here, isn't it? Because it's been maybe a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours since they went out in warm-up this morning. Yeah, because Swedish Rallycross is here this weekend as well, so there are gaps between the sessions, but in those gaps, cars are still out on track. Both those front 2 taking, our leader taking the defensive line and getting followed in, but look how much been closed down from P3 over the line now. A lot of revs. It's Nilsson, Persson, Lucas Anderson in P3. Lucas, as we say, was P3 on Thursday. Heads into the Joker lap. Right, so Lucas feels he's got better pace than the lead 2. That's not a bad move, and this may well be to cover off Gustafsson, who's coming over the jumper now. Shuts the door. They're side by side. Late on the brakes in those slippery conditions. Gustafsson was brave there. Anderson did well to try and close it. Now he's almost stalled the car up. Wrong gear as he comes over the crest. That was actually much closer than it looked like it was going to be as they're going side by side into the velodrome again. Look how slippery it is on the inside, but you can see all the mud on the inside of the circuit, but he's run wide. And it's better line on the inside. Gustafsson. Yeah, Alex Gustafsson's managed to get past. It's Lidman in the 128 who's gone up the inside. Mud making things very interesting for us. Still the 2 out front race, and I would argue is still losing a bit of time. Look at that, backing into the last corner. So slippery. And a mistake on the brakes. I think we're going to see a lot more mistakes today. We are, yeah. That's the nature of the conditions. You see it in any sort of motorsport. That's why people love watching Formula One in the wet, don't they? Because it just brings another variable to it. And it's these conditions where, you know, someone like, we've seen so many teams come into, especially into the top level of rallycross in America and in World Championship, where they've come in and thought, oh, 4-lap races, bit of gravel and tarmac, it's actually quite easy, not many corners. But the people who have so much experience, Jussi, Kenneth Hansen, Tommy Kristoffersen, there's so much they have, the knowledge they have is actually so valuable, and it's not simple at all.
Nilsson and Persson, who I thought fighting between each other might have lost time, actually had a significant margin over Gustafsson. You could see the two different lines from Nilsson and Persson again up in Velodrome. One went high, one went low. There is Gustafsson coming through. Oh, runs wide. Persson on the dirt. I'll tell you what, I think there's probably more grip on the dirt on the outside of the jump than there is on the tarmac.
And you can see how many people have been doing that in the Swedish Championship as well, because it's now like a full loose section line there on the where the mud's coming up through the grass or out on the exit of the jump into the final lap. Nilsson's got a more comfortable margin than he had earlier on.
Persson sideways in the background. Interesting chat earlier on with Katie Munnings, who's on her first weekend of Crosscar here, the Extreme E driver, teammate to Timmy Hansen with Andretti United in that series. Come here for some race experience, and she's certainly getting an experience in the weather conditions today. Went out for 2 laps. That's all it is, of course, of morning warm-up, because these guys had a full free practice back on Wednesday, but in dry conditions, not many laps to get your eye in. And yeah, pretty tough conditions to be learning Crosscar. Down the hill, Nilsson doing a lovely job of staying in front of Persson. Persson that little bit more sideways, I felt, than Nilsson's been to. Yeah, and see in the background there, runs wide and uses all the dirt again. Not scared, are they? So these drivers are all sort of aged 11. And spins in the last corner. Persson a little bit too enthusiastic. Gustafsson going to have to take avoiding action. Oh, again, spins again on the throttle. Over the finish line, right at the end of the race, has gone from P2 to P5. That's an absolute disaster. Half spin on the way in, and then when tried to recover, got back. And front left corner's locked up, look. Front left wheel is locked up, so something amiss with the suspension, and that may well be what caused the half spin on the way in.
And meanwhile, his teammate, Erik Nilsson's gone 2 seconds quicker than Luna Lander, who won the previous race. So currently the fastest time, which is interesting given how much the track looks like it's cutting up, especially in the loose sections.
4:01.514 is our target at the minute. Look back at some of the slow motion from this. The number of inputs. Couple of big holes developing out on the circuit where things are cutting up just a little bit. We'd expect that in wet conditions. The track will get regraded. As I say, don't forget we've had hundreds of cars. So that the start of this session, whether you guys have been on the stream or the TV coverage with SM, the Swedish Rallycross Championship, or not, they literally finished their last class. And these guys have gone straight out, so the track in very different conditions than they might expect. Maiju Niemi, Josefin Holmqvist, Isaac Nordbeck, Mikael Uitto, and Thomas Martins in this one. Good start by Nordbeck in the middle of the grid. Isaac Nordbeck with a very, very clear lead. That's exactly what you want. Going to try and get the tar turned in. From the middle of the grid too, nicely done. From the outside, it's Thomas Martins in the blue car trying to make a bit of ground. Decides to go standard lap, and look at them all. Trying to feel the grip. Oh, runs a little bit wide, going to get past on the jump. Tidy move from Thomas Martins. Really nicely done. Now Howard, all contact in the background. Half spin after that contact. That's Josefin Holmqvist. Oh, no way! Straight over the top. Maiju Niemi, 2 cars on top of each other. That's surely going to be red flagged. I'm not even sure how they're going to get out of that. Those guys will be perfectly okay, but that is the most interesting finish position to a crash I think I've ever seen. Hey, you couldn't... I'd argue you couldn't do that in the paddock with Jacks. What are you doing? Okay, look, they're both going to be all right. They're only kids as well, don't forget. Most important is to check these guys are right. They're going to have to red flag this one, surely. You can't leave them there. Coming round now through turn 1. Certainly it's going to be double, triple waved yellows, but with those cars on the racing line, the 2 drivers still in it, got to be a bit careful here. Is that red flag? It is, yeah. Red flag. Just see it on the marshal's post. Good decision from race control. Yeah, you're trying to get somebody out. Don't forget as well, we've got hot exhaust. These cars are hard enough to get in and out of when they're on the ground, Hal, when it's at 90 degrees on top of another cross car. How do you even recover this?
Not only is it in a dangerous position, but it's also on the line. And remember, these races are based on time, not position, so you're hampering the people.
Well, there's just enough room up the inside there, but you can't carry on like that. Here we go. Have a look at this. This is what happened. So this was the attempted part. No, okay, sorry. Oh my goodness me! Wow, that was steering movement there, trying to get. So that was the initial contact. Look. Josephine Holmquist left facing the wrong way, and then Raiju Niemi just sort
I think
of
she's
drives.
completely unsighted. The wiper, and maybe the wiper only started working. Let's have a look. Yeah, the screen's covered in mud, isn't it? Maybe she just couldn't see.
Well, hell, we've both raced buggies in the past, and the visibility is awful. But also, don't forget, first time braking zone from the dirt onto the tarmac, locked wheels, and that's it's not what they wanted.
And she's also making her return to Crosscar for the first time after some time away this weekend. And obviously the conditions are completely different to how they were on Thursday. So first race in the wet and the visibility factor, plus the lack of grip, it's a challenge, isn't it?
Now, that, from the outside, you might look at that and think that looked pretty bad. But really, honestly, usually there's not a lot of damage on those cars, is there? They'll be back out. They won't be allowed. Will they be allowed to restart this one if the car's in good enough condition?
I think no.
This was the recovery process, look.
I think Holmquist, regardless whether he's allowed to start or not, has got broken front right suspension anyway from the impact.
I like the recovery with the driver still in the car. Raiju Niemi is heading back round the circuit, having a sneaky little feel of the grip levels as well.
So that's always been a controversial topic in Rallycross, hasn't it? Whether you're the cause of the red flag and whether you're allowed to restart or not. The British Championship's had all sorts of issues with that over the years because, whether you're the cause of the red flag or not is up for debate, and often it's due to the clerk of the court's discretion. So I don't know what the answer will be here.
No, neither do I. You see, what do you think the answer will be? Put you on the spot. They're going to try and take the start. I mean, you guys would do the same, wouldn't you? If you'd send the car to the grid and just wait for someone to go no, wouldn't you?
Yes. I think in this case, based on the regulation, I don't think they are allowed to start. On the other hand, they are young kids in one of their first races, so it would be sort of, for me, okay to let them go again and get more experience.
These are the championship points as we stand after 3 rounds. Lucas Anderson on 85 points, 14 points clear of Alex Gustafsson. Lucas, of course, won the first 2 rounds before coming third on Thursday. Alex Gustafsson in P2 won on Thursday, was third in Neeson and 5th in Neeson. So consistent, but Anderson you see with a fair points gap. Jonathan Yulami in third. How's our finish, you see? Yulami, is that close?
No, it's not close.
Correct us, go ahead.
Ylilammi.
There we are. That's told us. This is why we need Finnish people in the commentary box. We do our best.
I was avoiding that question to save us embarrassment.
No, it's fine, mate. I said Timo's Yarnum I got wrong for a year. So everybody knows that. It was Timurzinov for the entire 2013. Sorry, Timur. I know that was slightly wrong. I was a bit scared of Timur, to be honest, in 2013. You know, the only... No, he wasn't the only Russian driver. He's probably the only Russian driver in Supercar, I would say, back then. And I wasn't sure. And then at Montalegre the following year, we stayed at a monastery, which I just found a bit too spooky. And I had a conversation with Timur about Scooby-Doo, the cartoon, and how I was slightly terrified that I felt like it was a bit of a Scooby-Doo type castle we were staying in. And Timur thought this was the most hilarious thing he'd ever heard. I was making all sorts of jokes about me waking up in the morning with ghosts and so on. And that was it. Since then, me and Timur have been like that. So he forgave me immediately. But that's very Timur, isn't it? He's hilarious.
Yeah, he is one huge character. It's been amazing to work with him for many years, and let's hope that he will make a return this year.
Did you work with him in Super 1600 as well before he came to Supercar?
Yeah. Actually, that was the first year we started running cars other than myself, and Timo was the first driver Seth ever had back in 2009.
Amazing.
So he stayed with us 2 years, 2009 and 2010.
My favourite win reaction ever to any supercar race ever is Timur at Spa in 2019. It was, and the fact we had an onboard camera with him, that onboard shot, we all know what he said. It can't ever be shown in replays, but it was brilliant, wasn't it? How did that feel for you guys? Because he was the driver with the most starts who'd waited the longest for a win.
Yeah, that felt good. You know, it had been a long time for him. Also, he had some few years with not so much success, and we had a mission inside the team to bring him back. And when he took that win, it felt good.
Nordbeck has taken a decent start here. Thomas Martens loses out this time. This was where Martens made the pass last time. Neither of the cars involved in the red flag able to take the restart, so the stewards are stuck to the book there. So, Jussi, when you say you wanted to bring Timo back, is that a case of trying to find the form in him that you know is in there?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
How do you do that? Or does it depend on the driver?
Yeah, it does. But of course, I think it started from that we felt that we need to get him back in you know, to trust himself, to have confidence in the car, to feel home in the team, to trust the people around him. And I think step by step we managed to do that. You need to ask him at some point, but
yeah, I will.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, I hope he is back this year. One of my favourites.
I don't think you'll ever get a more unanimously welcome victory in motorsport. The whole paddock was absolutely elated that day in Spa.
It's rare that the Spotters Tower is super positive about other teams winning. You know, normally there's 5 teams leave the Spotters Tower like this, don't they? And there's one team up there going mad, and it's sort of everyone's like, do you know what? We didn't win, but Timo did. Mega. So yeah, it was great. It really was. Lots of standing water still out on the track. We are indoors, but I would suggest that it's maybe getting wetter again.
Looks that way, doesn't it? It certainly looks like there's more spray coming off the wheels. I was actually thinking between the red flag and the restart that it would help these guys because they'd done a lap in more recent conditions. But if, like Jussi said, the conditions change so much that maybe it's not actually that relevant.
Well, Nordbeck backs it in a little bit late, but gets the rotation done on the way into that final corner. That final corner is so slippery, Hal. Whenever even watching Supercar in the wet through the last corner, you're almost a bit disappointed that there isn't more grip in there.
We were talking to Katie about that this morning, Katie Munnings about that this morning, weren't we? Because on Thursday she was working on trying to get the rotation. They actually had a problem with the cross car, didn't they? So it was very difficult for her. But she was working on getting the rotation done early to carry the speed through the corner. And in these conditions, yes, you still need to do that, but it's all about being super patient on the throttle, getting the rotation done, but not getting too hard into the throttle too early and getting too sideways. Such a balance.
Nordbeck jokered early there. Oh no! Came to the back of the pack, was right on the back there. I think that gives you an indication of how young these kids are because they're tiny. And Nordbeck jokered early. Okay, from the lead, maybe a slightly strange tactic. Didn't know if they thought they were going to cover them off or not, but was going to be behind. And, you know, sometimes that's okay. You can follow for a lap, then watch these guys go into the Joker, and you know you're on for the win. But coming up behind, Nordbeck then had a little problem and looks like stalled it. Round the outside, Uito on Martens. Found some good grip on the way in, over-rotating on the way through. Martens going to try and straighten the kart out. Not quite enough grip to make the pass on the exit. You see, I'm so impressed with these. Calling them kids almost feels disrespectful, but they are. They're children, you know, most of these drivers. And we've said they're amongst the cleanest racers out there.
Yeah, I think it's amazing and great to see that the FIA and they have created this class, and it gives the chance for the kids to learn at the young age with the material that they can handle. And yeah. It's very nice.
Uito and Martin's about to learn a harsh lesson of rallycross. It looks like they've forgotten to joker. So now it depends how far back. What's the penalty for no joker? Is it 30 seconds? So, but then with Nordbeck's problem, I'm starting to wonder if Nordbeck's not within 30. What was the gap on the last lap?
Just under 30, 22 or something.
Okay, so this is actually a race between a 30-second penalty for both these drivers who haven't jokered. So Uito and Martens are going to get a plus 30, so that's going to be a 4:31. The time was actually competitive with the previous heat. So whereabouts and how far back is this going to be? It needs to be under a 4:31, we think, to take it. I doubt they'll be on the radio giving that much information. That would be a little bit too much for any driver, I think. And the time is going to be, it's a 4:06, sorry, over the line. 4:31, that's enough. So that will be the win for Nordbeck, despite crossing the line in P3 and having that mistake after the joker. So Nordbeck will move to the top of that table because Uito and Martens, we are pretty sure, according to our graphics and according to our timing screens, didn't take the joker. different number of laps here. In Denmark, they were only doing 3 laps in qualifying. Here, Hal, they're doing 4, and that's, for me, the 4 is a better indicator of where they want to go in terms of a career. They're going to come across that more often as they move through the ranks of the sport. But also, there's just more options with 4 laps. I think 3 laps is always pretty tough to know when to go, particularly in a 5-car race.
Yeah, for sure. It's really difficult to know when to joker, and it was pretty difficult for us as well, wasn't it? Because there's so much more to happen in such a shorter period of time.
On to open 2-wheel drive. Popular class up here. Now, we were expecting maybe more cars to enter this category here. But because there's a round of Swedish as well this weekend, not so many. Jussi, I think you need to head off soon, do you?
Yeah. I promised actually the spot for my friend RallyX Nordic as well.
Oh, brilliant.
So I think he's out quite soon, so I will go and do that, and then we see what we can do with Niklas and Christian.
Before you go, is there a difference in tactics in terms of cross car because of visibility and things? You know, how do you work it?
I have no idea.
Really?
I did it for RallyX already on Thursday, and I said, you know, my friend, I have no idea how to drive that thing. So I just try to help you with the information and maybe a joker tactic, and that's it.
You will not find more honesty from a World Championship team manager than that. Jussi Pinnamäki basically saying to RallyX, yeah, I'll spot for you, mate. I haven't got a clue what I'm doing, but we'll have a crack at it. But it's great to see RallyX here racing. Jussi, thanks so much for popping up, mate. And if you get the chance to come back during the weekend, we'd love to see you again. So
all right.
Wishing you the best of luck. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
See you, mate.
Jussi Pinnamäki from GRX Gronholm RX giving us some brilliant insight and stories. We're so lucky to have the guest that we have here. Side by side coming off the final corner. England trying to find some traction in the Porsche, but that is tricky business. That car's looked quite tricky in the drive. To be fair, it doesn't look quite so tricky now. And Simon Tiger has joked and he's on the back of the package. So Simon Tiger has won all 3 rounds so far in behind the Porsche now. I think Simon is wise enough, Hal, to wait for somewhere sensible. If I was going to put money on it, I reckon he might have a crack at the velodrome, but he's got to be near enough. England's doing well on the traction front here.
I have to say I'm quite confused by the setup of that car. I don't know much about rallycross car setup, but it looks so stiff to me in the dry and looks quite uncontrollable.
It looks
and then
hard.
In the wet,
That's
it looks
what I mean.
just as stiff and looks almost a little bit more pliable and better.
Simon Tiger a bit cautious there. I think he was thinking I'll go around the outside, but that's maybe not wise in fourth gear in the wet. He has another look now. Tiger's going to win this either way, but he won't want to lose too much time, Hal.
He won't know because Matthias Janssen, who will be in the second race, has been quite close to him, was the only driver to take a fastest time off him in Nissen.
In these conditions.
And Tiger's losing a lot of time here, isn't he?
Yeah, I thought he was going to find a way past there on the exit of the last corner, but not quite enough. England goes joker, and that will release Tiger, so that's handy. And that was a lap earlier than he needed to go as well, so he's probably trying to cover off Bertelsen, but Bertelsen easily passed.
Well, massive understeer in the background for England. It's so slippery on the joker exit here, isn't it? That once you get the understeer, you're heading straight for that barrier on the inside. Bertelsen's doing brilliantly in the wet conditions. I know Tiger's been held up a little bit, but I think this is the best performance we've seen from him so far this season.
Be interested to see if Tiger can hold on to the quickest timer. He will know that he's been compromised, so I expect he'll push on this last lap and a half. But as Hal already said, with Matthias Janssen coming up next, and Janssen raced yesterday as well, so Janssen's done a few more laps. That's not necessarily going to help in terms of the conditions this morning.
No, but he's match fit, isn't he? And we spoke to him yesterday. He's really enthusiastic, and he knows he's got some work to do. I think Tiger's car's a little bit more developed. That's not unfair. And yeah, this is the perfect opportunity. The wet's a great leveler, isn't it? And I think he needs to now capitalise on the fact that Tiger's been held up.
Only 6 cars here this weekend, say slightly lower entry. Still a few issues for these Europeans crossing the various borders due to COVID. As I say, with a round of Swedish here as well. Some drivers doing both. They can only do both if the car fits the spec for the regulations for both. So, for instance, in Nordic, you can use a sequential gearbox, which is what Tiger uses. You can't use that in the Swedish Championship. And Matthias Janssen was saying he can't afford and also doesn't have the time in between the rounds to change to an engine and gearbox combination, which is legal for both. So he just sticks with a slightly lesser spec, and that means it's hard for him to match Simon Tiger. Tiger's time is, what have we got? 3:52, held up significantly. 3:52.657. I think that that's definitely up for beating, but only Matthias Jansen will need to get a good start, and I guess a good indicator that that's not easy is the fact that Simon, who's been on form all year, didn't help.
But he also didn't get great starts in Nissan, remember, did he? So
and the Porsche is mid-engine rear drive. Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is. Yeah, rear engine, rear to mid. Yes. So that would help with traction in these conditions. Tiger's car does look sorted.
Running a lot of camber on the front wheels, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's,
different to the dry conditions, you think?
Yeah, I think so.
These guys really enjoying the engineering aspect of it as well. Yeah, home-engineered cars, home-built cars, setting them up themselves. That's what he wants, an absolute banger of a start from Matthias Jansen away from the line. Going to move across and shut the door immediately. And now has to try and get the lap times done. I love the Volvo, it's just huge, isn't it? It's I was going to say it's like driving a boat, but in these conditions, how that's bang on what you want, really, isn't it?
Perfect, yeah. And where he was, where the setup didn't look quite as dialed as on Tiger's BMW in the dry, we often saw him locking the inside front. Obviously, the front so relatively unweighted because they run the rear so soft to get the traction. But it actually looks pretty nice in the wet, doesn't it? Just like the Porsche, completely against the theory of how to set up a rallycross car, but fantastic.
So if again, there's the bump on the inside from the gravel to the tar. That makes
big, that, isn't
it?
And
it makes more of a difference in the wet. You can see it unsettle the car when they've got it loaded up.
I also think it's digging out more, isn't it? Because the loose is much slippier and probably a bit more claggy, so it's actually digging out from that ledge. And the track guys will have to work hard to smooth that out in the track grading sessions through the course of the weekend.
Now that is a rear-wheel drive Golf that you can see there for Michael Persson. Mad setup on that again, Hal. You can see just the amount of angle in the front end of the car when he's really leaning on it. Lands it on the curbs in the background.
So soft as well. You can see it dealt with that curb just in the same way that a supercar would, which you wouldn't expect from what we would think visibly would be normally a front-wheel drive car. But that's the beauty of these open regulations. As long as the engine remains in the original location, you can basically do what you want as long as you retain two-wheel drive. So why not build a rear-wheel drive Golf?
Laura Winters joined us in the commentary box. Laura, you've been out and about in the paddock this morning. Really different conditions than we've seen. We've all had to put boots on today, haven't we? It's different. We've gone for wet today.
I've got full snow boots on.
Have you?
Yeah, for the dip in temperature, for the wet, the mud out there. I've gone, full.
Super soft.
Absolutely.
Super soft with extra cuts.
Exactly. You know, everyone's talking about the conditions out there, and certainly I think the electric cars are going to struggle a little bit more in the wet as well due to the extra weight. But very much, I think that's absolutely what people want from Höljes, isn't it? What's better than Höljes? Höljes in the wet.
Oh, mistake runs wide. Thank you, Laura. Couldn't agree more. It's Laura's first time here at Höljes. We would really like to see her here another time when Happy Street is in full operation.
Jansen had a moment with that barrier yesterday, on Thursday, didn't he? Where he got too much oversteer on the exit of the Joker and hit the wall and rotated into a spin. Completely opposite there, as we were talking about in the junior cross car, got way too much understeer in the loose gravel, and at that stage there's nothing you can do. All you can do is roll back out of the throttle and hope that the front starts to turn more. Lucky to get away with that. Let's have a look at the lap times. Well, he's Joker, so his start lap time was obviously slower than his Joker, so we don't have a direct comparison with what Tiger did yet. We will do as he crosses the line. Now, of course, he's Jokered on that one, but he's Jokered on that and still gone a second, 1.1 seconds quicker than Tiger's best. So
yeah, in theory,
I think this is well on track for a fastest time.
Yeah, I'd be very pleased. So interesting that it's in the wet again. As we say, the first session at Nissan on round 1 2 weeks ago was in wet conditions. That was the one he won against Simon Tiger. So, but yeah, maybe we might see a bit more competition for Simon today.
Well, we said it's a great leveler, haven't we? But also this car, like I said before, this car looks little. Tug on the handbrake, rear-wheel drive car, so the handbrake's not quite the same as it would be in a four-wheel drive car because you need to get on the clutch for the handbrake to work properly. But it's just a nice way of staying in the throttle and just bringing the speed down a little bit by just pulling on the handbrake. I think he's clearly showing his prowess in the wet here.
He's got 12 seconds to make it round the final corner. I think that's enough. Don't make any mistakes here. Don't be too enthusiastic. Watch his line on the exit. He runs much wider than he would normally. And as I say that, he takes the normal line, racing to get to the inside line. Easily, well, I say easily, not so much as I thought he might, but he has beaten Simon Tiger's time. That's only the second time this season. We're on event number 4. Qualifying session number 10 this is of the year, and he's won his second one. Listen to that. Roland Larsimo trying to kind of feather the throttle. Sounds awesome. Looks tricky. Larsimo finishes his run, and that means that we are done with open two-wheel drive. We're going to be moving on to Crosscar. We'll have a look at a minute in the championship standings of two-wheel drive as we came here to the second event at Höljes. 4-day event here, well 5 if you count. They've done free practice Wednesday. We had a full round on Thursday, which was 3 qualifiers, semis and finals. Look at the suspension deflection for Janssen as he comes through the Joker lap. Janssen in P2 in the series. You can see he's actually 20 points back from Simon Tiger. Morten B. Bertelsen in P3, Christensen P4, Mikael Persson in P5. But it's Tiger versus Janssen, and I think Janssen will be hoping to close that gap down to Tiger in these conditions. Can he? Laura, nice and dry in here at least. Was it raining when you were last outside?
It wasn't, no,
okay.
But there is definite moisture in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite pregnant.
We're above,
do you know what I mean?
We're above, it's going to rain, isn't it? It's definitely going to come. This morning when we woke up, we're kind of above the cloud where we were staying, but it's not fair to say miserable because it's beautiful here, isn't it? It's
stunning. I've been blown away actually by the scenery. I mean, these poor guys have to drive me, to and from the track every day.
She won't drive herself. I mean,
I've offered for the record. And it's just me in the back going, oh, isn't this lovely? I love it here. It's stunning.
And we saw a moose this morning.
I know. Absolute excitement over the moose, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. It was a good moose. It wasn't shy. It didn't run away. Yeah, good moose. Okay, top 10 in mixed order in the first couple of heats here, so expect this to be good. Hallberg, Nittish, Goodison, Osterberg and Anderson, and we've got a jump already, Hal.
Hallberg, yeah, on the inside.
Not ideal. So Hallberg, trying to think where Hallberg was P3. Oh, we can take a look, actually, see where Hallberg was coming into this. Yes, leading the standings, that's what I thought, despite being third, because Sebastian Enholm isn't here, who was leading when we came from Neeson. And he's got a 5-point lead. I'm frantically scribbling these down right now. Osterberg's on 59 and Rierson on 67.
Baldwin's result on Thursday moved him ahead of Reinus Nittis and has put him in reasonable contention, hasn't it?
Certainly has. So Hallberg was P2 twice in Neeson. P3 here on Thursday. Another good start from the middle of the grid, but then looked like got wheel spin. Nittish, I thought was going to be the benefiter from that. Or Hallberg slides it in, no way, across the apex. Thought he's going to take the whole pack out. Now goes wide, straight to the Joker lap. Hallberg jump start, mad one at the start, comes across the entire field and then goes Joker.
He didn't make the best initial getaway, did he? He was a bit slow off the line and then absolutely centred up the inside into the first corner, and that's really paid off for him. Now, if I were him, I'd Joker on the next lap as well, get out of the way and get chasing these guys.
Goodison and Osterberg going at it. Osterberg trying to go round the outside, looking for the long way round. He looked for the cut back onto the inside line now. Oh, Goodison's coming across, hasn't seen Osterberg. Shuts the door. Osterberg knows better than to go in towards the end of that Armco there. Goodison locks up on the brakes at the bottom of the hill. Osterberg's got that spectacular driving style. Oh, Hallberg in the background dropping a wheel off. Hallberg's on the back of them already.
Hallberg's on a flyer, isn't he? But these guys are really at it at the front. The Crosscars look so nervous in these conditions.
Osterberg going to get past, goes past Goodison, does he? Goodison with a bit of wheel spin on the run, and he does. Osterberg's got it, runs a bit deep. Oh, Hallberg's for the taking, though, I think.
What a move that was, around the outside into the first corner. Here is Brave. Look at Goodison. He's got chronic understeer out of the second corner.
Hallberg's got him. Anderson's gone Joker.
Great decision.
Yeah, so Hallberg's decision-making, but don't forget, Hallberg's got another Joker to do.
But on the previous lap, I said I would Joker on the next one, catch these guys up, because someone went in front. Great for him to stay out, get some clean air and get chasing.
Fantastic. So Hallberg here, could he pull off the miracle move? I suppose Goodison's dropped back. Osterberg leading. I mean, tactically, Osterberg should take this, but in these conditions, nothing's for granted.
No, we've seen in the juniors, haven't we? You can make mistakes right at the last moment. We saw that in these cross cars. They're so on the limit. You can make mistakes all the time. I don't really think he's got enough gap back to third and fourth at the moment to do it. But he's delivering a brilliant performance here. That is...
Nitish's car is absolutely...
I couldn't even recognise who it was.
I know, it's I knew what you were saying. I recognised it from the bodywork. It's absolutely filthy. Hallberg sends it in sideways, trying to cover off the rest of the pack in the background. Goodison goes Joker as well. Hallberg's going to come out P2 with a double Joker. That is absolutely a stunning drive. The car looks really good in these conditions.
It looks really clean as well, doesn't it? Because he jokered on lap 1 and then hasn't really been caught in the traffic. The traffic's parted ways for him here, hasn't it?
Look how calm he looks, and I'm amazed we can see him, because normally in cross car, I'm going to be honest here, windscreen wipers on cross cars are absolutely terrible, and he's got that dialed, and that sounds like the most rubbish detail ever, but in these conditions, you desperately need to see where you're going. We saw in Junior, if you don't, all sorts can happen.
I always say that the cross cars are great because you can see how the wheels and how the suspension are moving and working, but looking down into Hallberg's car there, the windscreen's quite wide, isn't it? And you can see how he's gently moving the wheel. Osterberg's going to go Joker now. In
he goes. So watch for Osterberg's Joker. That we know Hallberg's looking tidy on the inside line. I think Osterberg's got enough here, yes. So Jimmy Osterberg with a great drive, but I think here it's Hallberg, the championship leader. That is a fantastic recovery, and let's not forget to say this is 2 grids, the first 2 races, mixed up at the top 10, Hal, to be against 5 of the top 10 cross car drivers and double Joker to come P2 right behind Osterberg. That you can knock that wipe the extra Joker off. That penalty, he's managed to kill this.
He has, yeah, but that penalty is maybe not as bad here when the pace is so similar. If you were in a later race and the slower guys are around you, the Joker tactics become much more difficult.
They would. Great job by Hallberg. Osterberg going to take this one, barring any disasters in the last corner. But for me, Patrick Hallberg with an amazing drive. Absolutely fantastic to finish, literally 1.2 seconds off the back of Osterberg. Nitish comes through. Pinamaki was spotting for him. To be honest, he'd have struggled to figure out which car Nitish was in. What do we got from timekeeping? Is that a penalty? Or?
So it's a warning for Nitish. I have no idea what that's for.
I like Osterberg. Do you see the tape down the side of Osterberg's car there? That's to tape the window crack shut to stop the water coming in. And that's something you do once every run, I think.
I think that's optimistic in a cross car.
So do I, yeah. Well, particularly looking at where the tape has ended up, basically just hanging down the side of the car. Look at this. Patrick Hallberg jumps the start, and it looks super calm in these conditions. Watch this, look. He'll nudge the car in. Osterberg's spectacular. I love his and Rierson's driving style. Rierson yesterday was on an absolute mission, and then had a shock. Did he have a puncture? He did, didn't he, Rierson?
Puncture in the semis, yeah.
Yeah, gutted. Okay, then this one. Bowdens, Aaron and Larpety, Eganson and Rierson on the outside. Rierson with a banger of a start. Again, look at that from slot number 5. The middle part of the grid has seemed to have the best all the while. Bowdens looking to go up the inside, has to back off. Larpety loses out, drops down to P5. He's on the inside line. Bowdens going to go Joker straight away. But Rierson with an absolutely incredible start. He was 5 car lengths clear, Hal, before they left the tarmac.
When you see your grid selections before Q1, you're like, oh no, I'm on the outside. That's going to be difficult. But that was a perfect start, perfect first corner. This puts him in a great position. Look at the rotation. He is so confident in his cross car. Maybe not the fastest way to do it, but look, they're all running wide. They're all using that karting style line of finding the grip, not where the mud is on the bottom side of the velodrome, and using that top, drier, cleaner tarmac on the outside.
Really keen to see what Rierson can do today. You feel like it's redemption time, don't you? Ended up yesterday with a haul of points. Trying to see, I think it was P7 in the points, was it? It's hard to see from the results, but certainly, I say, went out in the semi, a lap down, so didn't even finish the semi, but that was having won 2 of the qualifying sessions and coming P2 in the other one. So Rierson really look at the angles into the Joker.
Somewhere he lost a lot of time there and got passed by Aaron, and so Rierson's gone Joker, and he's going to come out behind Larpety. I'm sure Jussi thinks that's a completely wrong pronunciation of his name. Sorry to all the Finns watching.
Yes, Ulalami. You're completely wrong. Thanks, Jussi.
Is that correct? No.
Here comes the Pinamaki bus, and we've just gone under it. That's absolutely fine. We're grateful for the Pinamaki bus. So, yeah, what happened there? I have to say, I was looking down at my stats to see where Rierson was.
We were looking at a rear shot down the hill, so maybe Rierson ran a little bit wide and Aaron got him. To be honest, I was also looking at the timing screen.
Would have been a lot wide, I think. Larpety up over the crest. Is that Rierson now closing down on Larpety? Watch in the background here. Yeah, there's Rierson. Larpety, trying to see who's Joker. That's what we needed to see. So Larpety hasn't, Aronen hasn't. This isn't over for Rierson just yet, but Aronen goes now. So watching for Aronen, who's gone Joker. In goes Larpety. They're both trying to cover off Rierson. I think Rierson will get Larpety. or jumps to the inside of the curb.
Really upsets the chassis, doesn't it, when they too lucky not to hit that barrier and do a Janssen-style spin.
Something's occurred to me, actually. I'm sure you'll remember. All the drivers say that to spot the line on that jump, there was a tree on the horizon, but they moved the runoff area back and cut the trees down after we had a supercar end up in the trees a couple of years ago on the outside of the velodrome. So I think the tree which used to sight the line from is gone, Hal.
It has, yeah, so it's made it a lot more challenging, or at least a lot more challenging to learn initially. Look at Rierson with a lot of lock-on over the jump, but lands and get it all sorted out. Look how tight they go on the exit of the first corner. You can see visibly how wet it is on the outside and the clean line on the inside.
Oh, spin for Larpety, half spin in the background, get a hold on to P4. Fascinating. Watching Matthias Janssen in the open two-wheel drive class, on every normal lap he ran the car out wide and carried some momentum through the corner. On the final lap he pulled it to the inside to race to the line earlier. Look at Rierson. He's getting that gold medal that I've invented definitely this weekend. Basically, if you missed Neeson, I've invented a new medal. It's a massive gold stamp because he is licking the stamp and sending it everywhere. So Rierson is getting the big gold stamp medal. It comes with a big red ribbon, I think, round it. Yes, Laura. Yes, Laura's she's disagreeing in the studio, but she's wrong. And F1 would be much better with a big lick the stamp. Nobody get it because nobody goes sideways enough. But Rierson is definitely getting the send it medal, Hal.
And he deserves it too.
Yeah. Laura, you up for the send it medal? Do you like the idea at least?
No, it wasn't me disagreeing with you. It was me in awe of the lick it and send it everywhere medal.
You like that?
Stamp, love it.
Okay, there we go. So that's invented. That's happening. We're going to have a big... It's big. I want it to
we
be
need
like,
a prop, don't we? And I can go and deliver it to them in the paddock.
Yeah, we should do. Let's see if we can make it. We'll find some plywood, bit of gold spray
I've got some paper.
Yeah,
that'll
but
do.
that may not work today in these conditions. I think paper is not going to be the answer. Jarkko Aronen taking this one after a problem for Rierson, which both me and Hal were looking at timing screen for stats. That's the way it goes sometimes. Sorry, guys.
And by a tenth, he's also currently the fastest driver, just pipping Jimmy Osterberg.
So close at the top then, from the looks of things. 339.465 for Osterberg. And 339.3 for Aronen. I think you could say that Rierson would have gone quicker there, Hal, were it not for the mistake. But that's the gamble, isn't it? Oh, come on. That's the worst jump start I've ever seen. Sorry. Well, that's a bit mean, but Damien Crepo, next to him, Tommy Svard. Tommy, you almost wonder there if he was trying to find the bite point, Hal, but that, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even think the Ready to Race board had barely gone up, had it?
I did a very similar thing in my supercar debut last year in the British Championship.
Mate.
I've slated people for years for going when the Ready to Race board comes on. I'm sat there and it's like, and the Ready to Race comes on, I let go of the handbrake.
Oh, mate, did you slate yourself immediately? I hope you berated yourself in the car.
Really annoying.
Oh, there's a quick message pop up on timing there. So
Svard double joker.
it was, you know what I mean, don't you? That was, there's borderline and there's no chance.
That's the sort of jump start you do when you know the joker's quicker.
Yeah, that's the Lowiak in the wet jump start, isn't it? Saw that a few years ago when the line through the Joker lap was better, and mysteriously lots of drivers were jumping the start like 3 from one heat, one after the other. And the stewards very hastily wrote a different rule. David Miat getting a good start, going to try and close the door on Svard, who had that jump start and does. So Svard goes Joker straight away. I might have waited one more lap for that. It was Hukar, who was another one who was up for Rika Hukar, who was up for the gold stamp. Oh, clips the barrier, spins the car around in the background.
Epic save, but that's harmed his chances even more. The first Joker of the two
Started right out.
Bendixson Joker behind him, actually. Bendixson retired on Thursday, do you remember, in quite an oily, smoky, fiery way. But I was amazed on yesterday. We were mooching around the paddock, weren't we? And so many of the Crosscar teams had the engine out because it makes it so much easier to work on the car and check everything. And it's not like taking the engine out of a real car. Who's that's run wide in the background? I can't see or tell at the moment. Is that Crepu? Yes, it is.
It is, yeah.
So that's actually the car that Rainis Nitish drove in Neeson, and Rainis is driving a new buggy this weekend, a brand new one. It arrived with the factory-based settings, and it took his guys. Oh,
Hookah with a spin. Hookah drops it. Oh, looking not to get collected by Crepo. Just avoids him. Crepo, I wasn't sure was going to go standard or Joker. Bendixson, you think, has been in the Joker already, but Bendixson's indicator isn't showing, is it?
He joked on lap 1 behind Sfar, didn't he?
So Bendixson's Joker indicator is missing. He has Jokered ahead of these two. Crepo lost out there. I'm not convinced he was looking to go Joker, Hal, but then he jumped on the brakes and managed to stay out of the way. Look, massive steering inputs from him.
Look what they've done with Crepo's car as well. Rain has told us that they run the mesh, don't they, in the wet, so that the windows don't mud and steam up. But they've actually cut holes in. That's the same make of car. That's the same.
As Nitish, the
same make of car that Nitish is running in the front, and they've actually cut a hole in the perspex.
There's
so
a
that
few
it's
like
just
that.
mesh.
Yeah, but Rainis has said, if you look, there isn't even a wiper on the car.
And they wear motocross type goggles.
Yes, I was going to say
tape,
with the reel. So you basically, it's tear offs. There are some that have a reel, and you pull a little cord effectively, and it pulls across a new piece of plastic over your goggles. Driving a cross car is always good fun. Mayat going to lose out to Bendixson. Oh no, Mayat's on the dirt on the outside. Did well to hold on to that. Pulls it back towards the apex. Knocks it down again. You see, I think these cars are so good for Al, not only for seeing the steering inputs, but when you look in the car, as you see Crepo come in Formula D style, and you see them reach for a gear or reach for the handbrake.
Hookah's actually tidied it up a lot in this race, hasn't he? He's nowhere near full send as he was on Thursday. Like we said, you just got to be so patient. Miet doing a brilliant job again.
Is Miet potentially going to get the time here?
It's been a good run, hasn't it? And it's so difficult to come to these Scandinavian tracks from the French circuits, which are so different in character. Through the Joker, just needs to keep this nice and tidy. Big load of curb on the right-hand side, but he's got a massive lead over Bendixson.
This is a brilliant drive by Mayat. So Mayat has handed it to the entire pack here. There have been issues. Far double Joke had hit the barrier as well. I mean, Hookah, as Hal said, you got something broken on the front of the car there. That's Mayat high up in the velodrome, about to head down that back straight. Just look, all those inputs down through the bump. Car running quite low, I think, coming compared to some of them. Look at that, opposite lock all the way through. Right, Mayat aiming for that time at the bottom of your screen. I think this is on. It's a 3:39 and he runs a little bit deep, get it straight and light that throttle up. Here he goes over the line. Oh, it's going to be so close. Has he done it or not? 3:39.336.
Yeah, just
hundredths in it. If it hadn't been for the deep braking zone in the final corner, that might have been a bit easier. But again, Crosscar showing us the depth in talent, Hal.
So difficult in these conditions, though, because running wide, he actually got a really good launch at the finish line. The grip's so changeable.
You can hear the limiter for the first time in that one, couldn't we? Over the line. Great drive by Mayat. Front of the car looks quite soft, doesn't it? You see it particularly over that bump coming down the hill, but then, to be honest, in these conditions, you'd expect that.
Yeah, you do run the car a lot softer in the wet, don't you, to get the suspension to travel a lot more, and to make the chassis move a lot more, get a lot more movement in the chassis.
Treuterud, Räikkönen, Anderson and Hain in this. Oscar Anderson had a good weekend, 2 semis in Neeson, 3rd in one of them. But on Thursday, Oscar just didn't quite seem to be on the pace, and Oscar hasn't got a great start there. On the inside, Räikkönen, it's Treuterud who's going to get to turn 1 first of all. Räikkönen, I'm loving the fins and the luminous liveries. Very easy to spot even in these terrible conditions.
Yeah, I have to say my car recognition in the mud, especially when they're generally white, is not great.
It's hard enough when they're clean, to be honest, mate, with the cross car. There are so many cars there, so you have to forgive us. Every year is a new big field of drivers, and we do our best to get to recognise the cars as quickly as we can. And I'd say it's been brilliant to be here in Höljes. I'm absolutely loving being back at the track. You know, we got about 6 COVID tests and 10 days of quarantine to do, and a 5-hour drive, but I'll be doing it all again. I'll do it all again tomorrow to come here.
So would I. I almost can't find the words to say how pleased I am to be here. It's just it's so wonderful to be here, but it's also for doing this role, it's so different to being remote, because you get to talk to people, we can find out what's going on. I think we can bring a lot more to the broadcast. It's fantastic being on site, and there's such a wonderful atmosphere here too, isn't there?
Yeah, really good. Missing the fans, you can see the banks there. Look at that, Höljes RX. I'd never seen Höljes RX in that grandstand until last year, because until last year it was absolutely packed, yeah. And if Happy Street is the road behind there, we told you this before, but we're telling you again, if you've not been to Höljes and been up Happy Street, you've never lived. Like, you need to, it's wild up there. It's like the Wild West Happy Street. I was up there yesterday with something quite cool, which you'll have to wait to see. You might have seen some sneaky peeks of it on social media. But Happy Street is bizarre with nobody on it. It's normally full of sofas and buses and parties and just good fun carnage.
This sounds ludicrous, but I've actually got goosebumps hearing you talk about that. The Supercar final here in Höljes, when there's 50,000 spectators, I think it's one of those real amazing motorsport experiences. People talk about going to the Indy 500, Le Mans, Monaco, and obviously I'm a massive rallycross fan,
yeah,
aren't I?
Course,
so I'm going to be biased, but I really think it's up there.
Yeah, so do I. The noise as well, if Larson wins a heat, or Mats Oman, the driver who is paralysed from the chest down, when he won a heat here, I'll be honest, nearly had me in tears, because the crowd were on their feet going absolutely mental for him. And he's not slow either.
He's not doing as much racing this year, but he's been at it a long time, and they're so passionate about the Swedish drivers here, aren't they? Especially when there's quite a big rivalry with the Norwegians still, and Norway's only just up the road. The atmosphere, like I said, it gives me goosebumps now, and that's a big off in the background.
Nearly rolled it. That's Peter Hain. Come on, get it out the gravel trap. Does well to keep the revs up enough. I think probably potentially the fact the gravel trap is wet will have helped there. So Peter, it nearly dug in, Hal. That was the thing, because it's fifth gear down the hill there.
You'd have to be so quick at jumping on the clutch then, wouldn't you, to stop it stalling as you're heading backwards into the barrier. Fair play for keeping it running and driving out again.
Troy Teward from Räikkönen and Anderson. Peter Hain was close to them. Not really sure how the lap time's been.
They've been okay. I think we're seeing the pace drop off a little bit now compared to the earlier runners, but the track conditions, it's hard to say whether they're improving or not. There's certainly a clean line, isn't there? But like Jussi was saying, the loose that gets dragged onto them. So the braking zone, the braking points are changing almost every single lap.
Really, really tricky conditions. Through the left-hander comes Troy Teward. I think Troy Teward's going to go quickest. So Troy Teward has time to beat said 3:39.3.
Well, yeah, 3:38.578.
Wow.
Taken almost a second. He has taken a second quicker than Miet, so the track is definitely improving. He didn't set any standout lap times there, but was just consistently, solidly getting them on the board.
Confirmation of that time, look, 3:38.578. Now, we've spoken to Andreas Eriksson, who is one of the people behind this series. Being honest, I always like fastest last, because I like the session to get the pressure to build through it. But this, Hal, is one of those occasions where it's working out for the drivers lower down the field. And I'll tell you what, it's definitely going to mix up the running. Yeah, the running positions for next time out, the standings after Q1 are all going to be mixed up by these cars heading out. Look at the flames out the back there as well. That's what we like to see. Last race for Crosscar before we move on to Supercar Lites and Supercar. Hampus Radström, Andreas Persson, Alain Feller and Katie Munnings on the outside. We'll talk you through Katie's first experiences of Crosscar in a minute. She gets a lot of wheel spin off the line, so does Alain Feller. On the inside line, though, Hampus Radström going to take this. Radström clips the curb, runs a little bit deep. Katie up the inside. Go on, Katie. Yes, so Katie's made a nice move up the inside there of Alain Feller. Almost forced him to go to the Joker lap. And she's also had a spot of luck in that Andreas Persson has gone Joker. So Katie now needs to get her head down, Hal, and she'd hopefully be in a better position to do so than she was on Thursday.
I have to say, I was very, very impressed by Katie Munnings in the opening round of Extreme E a few weeks ago. And she's come here to learn, hasn't she? Going around the outside of the first corner at Höljes and then getting it sideways, sending up the inside into turn 2. That's exactly what she's here to do. And now having a bit of pressure up front is brilliant for her as well. She just doesn't have this racing experience, so that's what she's here to do.
Absolutely. She had some problems with the steering on Thursday. Basically, uniballs, which is the metal ball joints which form the joints between the suspension arms and the steering, had seized up. She was driving the car, and the hands seemed to be saying to her, look, these cars are hard to drive. She thought, fair enough, you know. So they went for a little test to try and sort it out. Kevin jumped in the car and was like, they're not supposed to be that hard to drive. And You know, Katie trains a lot for this kind of thing, for Extreme E. You know, she's very strong, and she said it was, you know, the car was getting harder to steer. I was getting more tired as the day went on, so they've changed all the uniballs and freed the steering up, and that's actually a great drive there as Radstrom's dropped back behind Persson. So Person's done a couple of killer laps there, Hal, especially with passing Katie at the same time.
Yeah, comprehensively went around Katie on the outside, and I think that just gives a good indication as Person's coming back at it and coming out of the velodrome. He's going to make it.
Radstrom, yeah, gone up the inside.
Oh, sorry, Radstrom's gone up the inside, and sensible there not to touch wheels. Although Person's losing a bit, I wonder if he's got a problem.
Persson up and over the crest. Katie was saying yesterday as well that she's quite happy to follow, and that sounds mad, but again, how I've done that before. When you go into a class you've never competed in before, if you get behind someone who's quicker than you, just follow them. Just have a look at their braking points. It is trickier in the wet, and it's tricky here with such a different number of chassis being used.
Yeah, definitely. But I've learned a huge amount by following people in rallycross races, certainly in practice and the qualifiers, to get behind someone and just well, conversely, you can also follow them to mistakes. I do that a lot playing with mates on dirt rally. They make a mistake and you're immediately in the gravel behind them.
Yeah, you follow them in. We see that a lot, and we'll see that, I'm sure, in the wet conditions here. Radstrom smooth on the throttle on the exit from velodrome, feeding it in. Look at the difference in his buggy's attitude over the bump compared to, say, David Mayat earlier on. Mayat's buggy, to me, looked like it was much more reactive to that compression than Radstrom's is.
Yeah, you're correct, Andrew. The track is definitely cleaner and I think grippier now, isn't it? Because remember in the earlier races, as that person's had a spin, maybe has a spin out shot, at least gone very, very wide. Munnings is closing that gap, but she's still yet. They're both still yet to Joker, according to the Joker predictor on the left-hand side of the screen. This is the final lap.
I think Persson went on lap 1, so I didn't Persson go in with Fella. Yeah, after Katie ran Fella wide. It's that side-by-side action that Katie needs. You know, holding on to the inside line there with Fella on the first lap is exactly what she needs for Extreme E. She's got her second round coming up 10 days' time, heading out to Senegal.
And she's loving it, isn't she?
Yeah.
It was infectious how excited she was when we saw her yesterday evening as well. Just, you know, how much she's enjoying the side-by-side nature of the starts.
Yeah, really loving rallycross starts. That was great. We said, how you find it? She's like, oh my God, like rallycross starts are just awesome. I can't believe the adrenaline. And yeah, she's right. Radstrom, what's the time? 3:40, I think it was.
3:40.9. So although it's the slowest of the race wins, it's certainly not far away. I think that's going to put him comfortably inside maybe even the top 10.
Well, like, to give you an idea from yesterday, you know, leading time was a 3:09 and the slow time was right down in the 320s, yeah? So we had a time difference, a few people with issues who would have been further down. We had time differences of 20 seconds. Today, between Heat 1 and 2, with the fastest drivers in were 3:39s, Heat 3 was a 3:39, 4 was a 3:38, and then 5 was a 3:40. So we've basically, each of the winners from each of those races there, Hal, has been within 1.5 seconds. And that is really going to mix up who is in what heat races next time out. Track conditions are going to change again, but we're going to see the quick guys in with some people that they might not be, you know, expect to be in with. Maybe we're going to see some of these guys who've not had such a good day yesterday coming back and proving that they've got that pace.
And that makes the start's always critical in rallycross, isn't it? That makes the start even more critical again.
We're moving on to Supercar Lites. These are the championship standings as we come into round 4 of RallyX Nordic 2021. Tommy Haumann in his debut season in Lights on 75 points, 12 points clear of Linus Osland, Simon Olofsson, Niels Andersen, Martin Jonsson. I'll tell you what, go down that list as well. Enland and Netclev. Netclev had a big off yesterday, rolled the car. They had to wait for the centre part of the body shell to come to the circuit here, which arrived late in the day to fix that. Oskarsson, Foss, Janssen. Kasper Janssen, very impressive yesterday. We spotted Janssen in Denmark and said that we were expecting big things. And yeah, a lot of names in this who can win. On the outside, slot number 4, Niels Andersen, was really very impressive indeed on Thursday. Just missed out on the win. Niels was P2. But not a great start this time on the inside line. It's a Netclev and Foss who get a good start. Andersen now makes up some time on the run to the first corner, out wide, going to try and make the move across. I think Foss might go Joker from there, but no, a Netclev's gone in first of all. So a Netclev heads straight into Joker and Foss follows in. Haumann leads on the standard lap. So Tommy Haumann, super impressive, Hal.
his first ever proper start in the wet on reasonable condition wet tyres. He was saying to me yesterday that he was a bit concerned about the wet conditions. He tested the car in the wet. As Jonsson's going to have a look up the inside of Nils Andersen, makes a bit of contact but doesn't really lose them any time. Yeah, Holman has tested in the wet back home in Finland, but hasn't done a wet start, was running on old tyres at the time. And you know, there's so many new drivers in Lites this year that this is a whole new day of exploring the potential of the car. Janssen runs a bit wide in the background, but yet again, Holman didn't make a perfect start, did he? But yet again, he was so composed around the outside of the first corner, no big sideways, and had the line for turn 2.
We had him in the studio here, and we spoke to him. I said, what's next for you? You know, where are you heading next? And he said, look, my dad says to me, don't worry about where you're heading next. Concentrate on what we're doing now. And he did say, obviously, he said it will be tough to move up to Supercar because of the costs involved, and we know that. But I liked his attitude, Hal. He made great decisions about jokers. He just seems to be a very calm thinking driver. Not that surprising for us being Finnish, but he's getting the job done. And a lot of these drivers have a lot more experience in these cars than he does. They're a very specific car to drive. I'm impressed, really impressed.
He has, he's a sort of satellite of the set promotion team, but he's running it all himself. This is a van and trailer effort, as I've said before. He's got his grandfather working on the car, his younger brother and his dad. They've been out. They haven't been home to Finland because it's so difficult with all the COVID tests and the getting between countries. So they came straight to Sweden. They've been here for a couple of weeks. They're doing it in such a well-calculated way, but they just don't have the budget to be racing at this level, really. And they're doing an amazing job.
Nils Andersen in P2. I say we spoke to Nils. Nils had got he won 2 of the 3 sessions on Thursday. And when we spoke to Nils, we thought Johan was in the comms box with us after Johan Kristoffersen was in the comms box with us for the finals, and Nils just missed out on that win, which would have been his first win in Lites. But he'd had his first TQ, Hal, and Johan said it would take him a couple of hours to get over the disappointment. When we saw Nils the following day, he goes, it took about 2 minutes. I'm really stoked with P2. And he just drove well all day. He said the car was good, but he said he was happy with his decision making. And we've talked about that quite a lot, but it's so important in rallycross. You've got to spot it, but some of it you've got to do for yourself.
Yeah, and I'm so impressed by his maturity. Jansson's picked up a penalty, a warning penalty during the race. We haven't seen what that's for. Holman's going to go Joe as the final lap, so Holman has to go Joe. Could be followed by Andersen.
Jonsson will go in as well, and Netclev is actually a long way back. So these drivers, this is kind of what we come to expect maybe from top heats, but they've all been quite sensible. And Netclev going to get past Jonsson. Netclev will be pleased to be competing.
Whole new body on that car yesterday. They had the whole centre section of the shell off, and then they put a new one on. Sebastian Eriksson didn't quite know whether he'd have the same livery or not today, but Kevin Eriksson's obviously working very hard on it. It looks identical.
I've noticed they've got a big decal printer, so they can print pretty much whatever they want. Mostly they seem to be printing Jamaican flags at the minute for the side of Fraser's car. But yeah, they've got that livery back to normal. Howman takes the win. The winner from round 3 and from round 2. He was 3rd in the first round. But there's a long way to go in this one. A puncture we're hearing front right for Foss. So Foss lost some time there. Here is Foss. Ooh. Doesn't look like... Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. There you go. You can see the whole rim. That is definitely a puncture.
That car's seen some action. Supercar Lites chassis number 1, that is.
Really? Mm-hmm. Love that, Hal. How many are there?
57 or something now?
Mega. 329.7. I'm keen to just compare that quickly to Crosscar. 10 seconds faster. So the all-wheel drive of these cars just giving them a little bit more pace. There's a mistake look from Jonsson. You can see on the brake mid-corner, but too late to get the rotation done by then. Jonsson ends up sideways and in the deep dirt on the outside, but that will probably have helped. Enlund, Janssen, Osland, Oscarson and Olofsson on the outside. Olofsson was brilliant in Denmark until he had an issue with the belt, and then had a bit of a torrid day yesterday, got fired off in turn 1. But has got a brilliant start here, maybe loses out as he pulls second gear. It was away from the line so quickly. It's Oscarson inside him, is going to shut the door. Olofsson will be a little bit cautious around the outside. Where's Janssen going to go now? I think Olofsson wanted to go Joker. That could be tricky with the stewards. Gets into the back of Oscarson as they come over the jump. They're side by side. Oscarson gives it back to him. Pushes Olofsson all the way off the side of the track. And that has allowed Osland straight through to take the lead. Going deep again. Careful now, lads. Going to have a load of contact and damage. Oscarson's had a wild first half lap. Olofsson behind, not going to be too happy about the return contact, and looks up the inside line. Olofsson finds the traction. Wonderful drive from Olofsson there. Digs the traction out of the inside line of the corner, down the hill, and takes the position back again.
Almost pulled the traction out of his pocket. I think Oskarsson might have a left rear puncture, the way attitude of the car, the way it's sliding around. Perfect for Linus Oslund that he managed to avoid all of that kerfuffle in the first couple of corners and get out in the lead. I do think Oskarsson wasn't particularly pleased with getting pushed up the back in turn 2, was he? And then that's why he forced Olofsson wide. Olofsson did a great job in the velodrome, but Linus Oslund's pulling away here.
Watch out for Kasper Janssen. So Kasper Janssen is the driver who was full send everywhere in Denmark, and we said if he tidies up, he'd be quick. He tidied up big time yesterday. Kasper ended up P6 in the final, first time in the final. And Kasper has jokered and will have overlapped Oskarsson there. I'm wondering how far back he is from Olofsson. Not far back at all, Hal. Look in the background, the green and black livery. Watch for Kasper coming through now. I think he's close enough to... Oh, he's got terminal understeer through velodrome. But he might be close enough.
The Joker's slow here in the way, isn't it? Because it's so hard to get the traction on the exit because the loose is so slippery and deep there. But, you know, all the lessons he learned on Thursday by tidying up his driving style is paying dividends now. You can't afford to drive like that in these conditions.
Olofsson runs deep, unless he's looking for traction out there. In the background, Janssen takes a similar line. Oslund stays out. Oslund on his home circuit. Olofsson going to go Joker. Olofsson goes Joker. This will be to cover off Kasper Janssen behind and also to give him a chance to try and make a pass. Going to be close. Olofsson might shut the door here. Kasper Janssen going to squeeze through. Oh, Olofsson slides in. Janssen used all the curb on the inside line. Switches back to the right-hand side. Brilliant drive from Kasper.
Absolutely fantastic job from the debutant this year. These conditions are so difficult to drive in, especially at this circuit where it's so greasy. He's doing an amazing job.
He comes from a karting background, how that will really be helping him with looking for the grip, hunting out the different lines. Oh, big dip through the bump.
But it's so difficult to hunt out those different lines when you're under such pressure from one of the most experienced drivers in the field.
Going to keep the door closed on the inside now. Don't want to run too deep. Also here, Hal, this is the rallycross thing of don't keep the door shut so much that you lose too much time, because Olofsson behind probably isn't going to do anything stupid. Yes, he'll want to take a position. Oslund goes Joker. This is going to be easily out in front for Linus Oslund.
But as a karter, you'll be used to driving under that pressure, won't you? Yeah. It's not like you're coming from a rally background, you know, like, for example, Katie is, and isn't used to having someone knocking on the back door of the car all the time. You know, I think the racing aspect won't be so much of a problem as it might be otherwise.
Now got a couple of car lengths anyway, so Kasper Janssen continuing to impress us here at RallyX Nordic. Simon Olofsson hoping to come back, as we've said numerous times, from what was a brilliant start to the season, and things have become a little bit more difficult. Olofsson definitely in the championship fight. Round the last corner comes Linus Oslund, who will have done many laps around this circuit in so many different conditions. Kasper Janssen holds on. Olofsson runs the car deep, looking for the timing line early. Enlund in P4. Tommy Howland's time was 3:29.7. We're just waiting for the result to pop up, and we'll see. It's not as quick. So Linus Oslund with a 3:32.1. Tell you what, Howland's time's looking amazing, isn't it? Especially as how we thought the track was getting quicker, but it needs the snow there, still snow there in the background. Laura's boots are the right choice. In these conditions, there is a tipping point at which the track goes from getting faster to getting slower again. Yeah,
and the joy is, regardless of how experienced you are, I was championing people like Pienimäki, Hansen, Kristoffersson for having that experience, but that's almost, you can take a good guess, but you just don't know when that's going to happen, because it depends on the amount of rainfall, the track temperature, the ambient temperature.
How greasy is it? Where was
what
the dust
condition the track was in already? You know, there's just so many variables.
What start slot did you get? Sockfist on the inside, Bergström, Peterson, Tornholt, Expeth. Somebody's jumped the start.
Peterson, maybe.
Oh dear. Yeah, and in fact, the top, you can see the digital board above the start there shows you number 3 flashing. And there's the double Joker board. Everybody else being shown that they are clear. So remember, it was fastest first. So in theory, these are the slower drivers, but we're not sure on track conditions. I would suggest that Linus Oslund is good enough to have nailed a mega time round here if the track was getting quicker. But Howman is so good from race 1 of Lites that it's hard to tell. Either way, if you want to challenge Helman, you're going to have to get a good clean start here. On the outside, it's a brilliant start for Experth. Gets away. We've seen some drivers get good traction there and then go up into second gear and lose out. Experth shuts the door across the entire grid. Nicely done. Gets to the apex of turn 2. And pretty standard stuff at Höljes. 2 cars into the Joker straight away. I like the Joker here, Hal. Turn 2, and I love any track with a corner one way and then the other for turn 1 and 2. Lowiak, Latvia, it always just makes for exciting racing. Yeah,
and it just gives you so many options, doesn't it? Because in with a traditional first corner, which is a single apex, single direction corner, you very rarely see someone pull off an outside move unless it's a super Larson Duran type send. But there's, you know, you can do so much in the first corner here. There's no guarantee under big pressure now from Bergström.
Yeah, anything that goes left, right, you see people try over, under, over, and then particularly here with the Joker being in turn 2 as well, you've then got another option. Yes, I lost the start, but I'm going to go Joker. It does depend on who else is in the heat race with you as to whether or not you can afford to drop yourself down into that traffic. We've got 2 cars at the back of Joker already, and they're so close to the pack that Söderqvist is looking really good.
Tornholt was going to go Joker, I think, on in turn 2, ran deep and allowed Bergström, I think it would have been at the time, to get up the inside. Or, yeah, it was Bergström that got up the inside because she had a little bit of indecision there. Bergström's driving really well in the wet here. He's going to have a little look up the inside going down the hill. That's brave. Oof.
Yeah, that was a bit close, wasn't it? Over that bump again, and that bump's getting bad enough now that both times we've seen them come down the hill, we've seen the cars change line from hitting that compression. So you've either got to dial the suspension in to change that, or hope that when the track gets graded, the conditions come your way.
Bergström's moving the car around a lot, isn't he? Just moving the steering quite a lot, and being part of the KMS team, he'll with time learn to be a little bit more smooth. Runs wide next of the first corner and heads for the Joker.
Has to head for the Joker, I think,
no
after the pendulum comes back the other way. Just manages to save it. Bergström's gone Joker, but it's Söderqvist in the orange and white car. Oh, super close to the barrier again. Look at this. He's been hanging on to that since turn 1.
The track conditions do look more slippery again, don't they, than they did certainly for Harmon's race. Not to take anything away from Tommy for the time he set, but it's looking a lot more greasy now.
Wipers are on again, Howard. It's so hard to tell if it's actually raining. It doesn't look like it is, because down the hill, oh dear, off into the dirt is Peterson. Gets the car going again.
Laura's shaking her head. She's just come in from being outside, so I don't think it is raining just at the moment.
Expert's going to go Joker on this lap. Söderqvist, yeah, close behind. Söderqvist, look, backs it in over the crest, and this has been really nicely done. No dramas at all. 3:29.7 the time to beat. We're keen to see what track conditions are doing, because Supercar is coming up next, and that could be absolutely key. You can hear in the background those anti-lag starts, bit of tyre cleaning going on.
This is impressive from Söderqvist as another karting driver. I think he's done 8 years or something as a factory kart driver, but to deal with these conditions and all the mud and the loose and stuff is a great performance. Tornholt's going to have a look up the inside as they go out of the velodrome. Doesn't quite have the traction.
I love the fact that drivers who've come up through karting are now seeing rallycross as a potential career. There are so many options for it. Spin in the background. Checker flag and a win. Time not going to trouble the top drivers, though. But yeah, drivers going through karting, you'd expect them to move on to single-seaters. Oh, contact in the background. That was a bit optimistic. Back that one over the line. Come on, who's going to get to the finish line first? It's literally there. Bang it into reverse, come on.
So hard of a sequential gearbox, isn't it, to get it?
Yes, get it, get it done. Yes, to the awareness. I love it. You can imagine there, can't you? Bang, bang, bang down the box, dumping the clutch, trying to find neutral.
And that's the value of having Tommy Kristoffersen as your spotter, isn't it?
Yeah, you can hit reverse now. I was willing that to happen, and I made up that they'd got it done. I think it's potentially broken steering there anyway for Ida Tornholt, because Ida pulled away at the same time, but couldn't turn in.
Excruciatingly close to getting a finish there as well.
Yeah, and of course, worse points if you DNF than if you finish at the back of your heat. Can't beat a finish line, can you? You know, what was that for P4 not even in the quick race, but I love it. My favourite finish of the day. Tornholt DNF, Peterson, we saw her have a spin. Bergström, Experth, Söderqvist with a 3:36. Still only 7 seconds between the quickest and the slowest. Definitely broken steering for Ida Tornholt. Going to have to send the scoop out to pick that one up. And then we're on to Supercar. Have a look back at some of the action. That's that curb, which is, you have to be cautious about landing on that curb. We've heard people say before, Hal, if you land on the curb, you're risking squeezing the tyre off the rim. We've seen it happen loads of times, but obviously it gives you a straighter line into the left and then the right. Johan would say, look how much dirt there is above the curb. You can take it if you want. He says it's faster, but it's a risk, and there's those little risks of the tenths here and there. I'm really keen to see what the supercar drivers do next with regard to risking their line. Yeah, how much of a risk are they willing to take?
That's the Ericsson curve on the landing from the first little jump here at Höljes, because the Ericsson boys are renowned for clouting it pretty hard, and Andreas getting pretty unhappy when they get punctures from it. But you gain so much by taking that straighter line.
Bergstrom with the mega reverse over the finish line move. This was the run up to that with Experth. Not going to see it.
Tornholt came from a long way back to be involved in that, didn't she?
Yeah. Winch on. That won't take too long to fix. So just supercar races to come. 3 of those for you. Some of the World Championship regulars in that as well. That gives you a good idea of the spread of nationalities. You'll be seeing one of those flags in a minute on the car. Intermediate standings for Supercar Lites at the end of their session. Tommy Howman leads from Linus Osland, Nils Andersen, Niklas Netklev and Isaac Sokvist. Janssen 6th, Olofsson 7th, Jonsson 8th, Enland 9th, Experth 10th. Gregory Foss looked down in 13th, Ida Tornholt unfortunately with that DNF. Next up, we have got championship standings for you for supercars. We move on to that portion of the event. Johan Kristoffersson leads the championship by just 4 points. Ahead of Sondre Evjen, Fraser McConnell and Enzo Eid. I think if you look at the gaps back, Enzo has had a tough 3 rounds. I spoke to him, I spent some good time talking to him yesterday. He's got big plans for this season. And we've seen a big increase in his pace recently. But only 8 points between Fraser McConnell in P3 and Johan Kristoffersson in P1. Kristoffersson had a puncture which dropped him out of contention on Thursday. Niklas Gronholm in the middle of the grid here. The winner on Thursday. Although not ultra happy, I'd say, with his performance. He just wants to find the feeling in the car. Fraser McConnell on the inside line. Anton Markland in P2. You've then got Michalak and Andreas Carlsson. Carlsson didn't start on Thursday with issues with the car, and he's back now. And that's due to Anderson, Lars Anderson's retirement. Thumbs up from the marshals. McConnell, a championship battler here on the inside line. Anton Markland in P2. And Niklas Gronholm headed for different series later on this year. They'll still want to take the win, though. Oh, great start, Gronholm, but amazing start. Fraser McConnell on the inside line found traction from somewhere. Gronholm's not going to be able to shut the door from there, as he surely can't go around the outside. Fraz pushes across, closes the door into turn 2. Markland going to go joke it immediately. Fantastic start from Fraser McConnell. I thought that Gronholm had that just with the traction, but he didn't.
He didn't know. Fraser made a brilliant launch from the inside, didn't he? Remember, they had such problems with that exact car here last year in the wet conditions. OMSC have worked so hard on him to get the setup better, and he's leading. He's exactly where he wants to be at the front of this race.
Fraser McConnell, P3 in the standings. He's coming, he means business. He wants to win RallyX Nordic. His win last time out, or sideways in the background.
I think Gronholm hit the wall on the way down the hill. I think he just clipped the wall and it bounced the car a little bit over to the right-hand side.
Carlsson is with these guys as well, and remember the track could get quicker. We're not sure. Fraser feeling for the grip levels. How these guys haven't been on track for about 3 hours from pre-practice this morning. It will be vastly different to what it was.
And all the information you can glean from watching, or maybe for some cars from the support classes, is useful, but it's not necessarily helpful enough.
That's a late choice by Gronholm. That is a late choice. I think he could end up losing out to Carlsson here. And that's not going to be what he needed. I thought they'd wait another lap, Hal.
This is to cover off Markland, isn't it? But I think maybe it's not worth the risk of getting stuck behind Carlson, because it's not just about trying to beat Fraser McConnell here. It's about challenging Johan Kristoffersson and Enzo Eden, Sondre Evjen in the next race as well. Okay, he's got ahead of Markman. He just needs to hope that he's run wide.
Markman gets it up the inside. Gronholm runs deep. Markman finds the traction. Gronholm's right back with him again. Both those lines work, but Markman has made it work beautifully to take the position back off Gronholm. Fraser McConnell now has two options. Does he go Joker? He could go Joker now, and I'd go now. Go Joker now. Carlson runs deep. He's going to come back into Markman. Markman's almost in the barrier on the inside line. Carlson's surely going to be holding up in the background, and Fraser goes standard lap. Fair enough. They're confident they've got the pace. This time now, off to the outside goes Carlson. I don't know whether they could, maybe with the carnage that was going on there, I might have sent Fraz early, but they're confident in his pace, Hal. He's driving brilliantly this season, and the Jamaican's going to hold on for the final lap.
Yeah, Andreas Eriksson on the radio. Yes, these two got into each other and held each other up a little bit. I don't think it was a bad decision, because at the moment you don't want to risk Fraser dropping into any sort of fight at the moment, and you can rely on those two being a little bit held up if they have any more sort of a fight. This is going to be close though.
Fraser McConnell round that corner. Listen to how patient he is on the throttle. He has come such a long way, and he has come a long way. He's come all the way from Jamaica to be here in Sweden. We know they'll be watching back there. Markland, Gronholm trying to chase him down. Fraser McConnell goes Joker. Going to try and hold him off. I think he's got enough. Going to pop the curb both sides. He's easily got enough. McConnell slides out into the lead. That's a great drive. Helped a little bit by the guys behind battling, but fantastic.
I think Nicholas has probably got a bit more ultimate pace than Anton Markland. I think Anton Markland was delighted to finish second on Thursday with a slightly older, quite a lot of older specification car. I think had Nicholas got ahead, then Fraser maybe wouldn't have had such a margin, but what a drive from Fraser in really difficult conditions.
Amazing start, hasn't made any mistakes, won't want to make a mistake now at the end of the run, and I think Gronholm potentially just one lap too early, ending up in that fight. Could have hung on and still split the strategy against McConnell. McConnell will wait on the throttle. Look at that brilliant drive. Fraser McConnell wins his Q1 race here at Höljes, round 4. Markland and Niklas Gronholm behind him. Job calmly done, and the front, at least, of the Jamaican flag is nice and clean. Picked up some extra sponsorship from Visit Jamaica, Sandals. All those companies are from the Caribbean, and I love what a local effort this is. And with the win last time out in Neeson, it really helped his profile, as it does when Usain Bolt and your Prime Minister both tweet about you. But that's going to help Fraser McConnell, and we really want to see him. Well, he'll complete his season here at Nordic. I want to see him in Nitro Rallycross later on this year. That's where he wants to head, over to the States. And I'd love to see him there, because I'm really impressed with him, Hal. I'm really impressed with him.
Look at the rear wheels lock a little bit. He's already made the apex, and you can tell by the fact the wheel's stopping, he's just locking the rears a little bit. Now he's hooked the curb on the right side just the right amount. You just miss the bollard and don't get a penalty, but get the wheel hooked on enough to pull the car in. Beautifully on the throttle there. He's maximising all of the conditions there because it's so slippery.
That's a perfect Joker lap for me, certainly at the chicane element of it after the entry. The weight transfer in these conditions is really good. Okay, can any of these guys beat the time? German, Kristoffersson, Ede, Evjen, Sabo. Brilliant start, Johan Kristoffersson on the outside. Sabo's gone quick as well. The Hyundai's going to move across. Kristoffersson might try and run him deep. Backs off on the brakes, hold to the inside line. Will Johan go Joker or not? He doesn't. And I think it's Enzo Ede who's gone Joker immediately. Sabo around. Kristoffersson goes tight on the inside. Finds a bit of extra traction. Sondre Evjen's following them in. German's gone too. Kristoffersson looks slightly quicker to me here. Hal Kristoffersson not in the factory polo, he's in the KMS polo. This is the full-on effort from GRX that Sabo's driving for. Sabo's a little bit deep. Kristoffersson will know, and he goes inside line. Kristoffersson finds the traction. Sabo can't quite come back in. Brilliant move by Johan.
Fantastic. He gave up the first corner, didn't he? Sabo made a brilliant launch from the outside. I think come the final, Johan would have buried the polo into the first corner to try and take back track position. He said on Thursday, didn't he? He needs to start thinking about this championship. He can't afford to risk losing points. But he's so experienced, and just knowing where the grip is through the velodrome to get back up the inside of Sabo there.
It was you almost knew it was coming, didn't you? And you get, if Kristoffersson had been in Sabo's car, he'd have been ready to cover it off, and that's just where he has more experience than Christian. Christian, though, is a brilliant driver. Joker lap, Sondre Evjen. This will be to cover Enzo Ede behind. And he does, so Sondre has given himself a bit of space, but now really needs German to go on the next lap, and German might well wait for the final lap, Hal, because he's in no man's land. I think Sabo will go Joker on this lap as well, if he wants to try, unless he wants to follow Johan.
Yeah, Johan's not really in a position to Joker at the moment, unless they're desperately trying to cover off Evjen, because like you said, Philip German's in no man's land, isn't he? I think, whereas Kristoffersson had better pace on lap 1, Szabo's coming back at him now, isn't he? There's nothing to choose between them. You seldom see Kristoffersson get past unless there's a massive pace difference, do you? Because he's so wily.
That is the full-on World Championship spec Hyundai, though, against the KMS Polo. I'm not saying the KMS Polo isn't good. It's very good, but it's not the Volkswagen Motorsport Polo. Neither of them joker. So Szabo then perfectly happy to follow on from Kristoffersson. Both of them look running blanking across the front of the cars.
That's to keep the mud out of the intercooler, isn't it? Oh, I thought German was going to hit the wall on the outside. Yeah, that's to keep the mud out of the intercooler so the charge temperatures don't get too high and risk losing performance from the engine. Look at Kristoffersson, he's so patient. Szabo's got the rotation done and he's more sideways. Johan's so patient on the throttle, just feeling for the grip. This is another World Championship performance, isn't it, in a car that arguably it shouldn't be in this position against the Hyundai.
So Kristoffersson doing what we know he can do. He's not making any mistakes. I'm really keen to see his pace versus Fraser McConnell from the first race. The track conditions are developing a little bit, but by how much we don't know. Fraser's time was a 325.750, bottom of your screen. They both come out. Evgen look is closer than I thought he'd be. Evgen's really close to Szabo. Sondre Evgen with a good drive. Early joker making up time. Enzo Weed was right with Evgen on the previous lap but has dropped back. So that was a really good lap. They must have been on the radio and said to Sondre, keep it tidy. Kristoffersson has gapped Szabo through the exit of the joke lap. So Johan Kristoffersson now chasing the time of Fraser McConnell. It's going to be close. I'm not sure he's going to do it. I think McConnell might have this. Up and over the crest, the long left just to go. In the background, off deep, that was Enzo Weed. And he's not going to get the time. So Kristoffersson comes around. It's a great drive to hold off Szabo after a brilliant pass on the first lap. It's a 3:29.
4 seconds slower, nearly 4 seconds slower. That's he definitely didn't lose that much in fighting for the lead in the first few corners, did he?
I think that's showing the class there of Fraser's drive as well. And Johan, Johan looked tidy, really tidy there. Interesting. All to play for today then. 3:29.1. Fraser McConnell continues to lead this session. Ahead of some of the best drivers in the world. This guy, well, this is the most successful rallycross driver in the world. 24 victories. That is double the number of the man in P2 on that standing, which is Matthias Ekström with 12. Yes, the Polo's a brilliant car, but this guy is a genius in a rallycross car. And how I think we saw that genius with the pass on Szabo on the exit. And again, that's a good joker, isn't it? Look at that, all four wheels straight. I'll just run it out past the barrier there.
But no better than Fraser's, because Fraser smashed that, didn't he? And we'd expect it from Johan, of course.
Yes, yes. Okay. 2 electric rallycross cars in this. The Stard ERX in slot number 2 and slot number 4. That's Hapamäki and Bakkerud. And they both get absolutely epic starts. Hapamäki with the best start of everybody. Going to look up the inside of Peter Hedström. Oh, a bit deep on the brakes. Drops it in the gravel. Andreas Bakkerud round the outside. Going to go straight to the joke lap in the Stard ERX. Gets a little bit crossed up. You could see Bakkerud there wasn't wanting to hold onto the slide the whole way through, Hal. And he's already said, with the weight in these cars and also the amount of power there is in the rear, just got to drive it in a certain style, which he's getting used to. And the car looking a lot more dialed than it was a year ago when we came here.
It is, yes. Fuchik's going to have a look up the inside of Peter Hedström through the velodrome. Can he get the power down? He can't get the power down on the inside to pull off that move.
He needs to be a gear higher for me there. You could see from the exhaust when he took a gear halfway through that slide. RPM came up too quick and he went backwards. Good effort, though.
It is, yeah. The lack of livery on the front. Bakkerud had a massive slide in the background. We were talking about how much of an exploratory weekend this is for Bakkerud on Thursday in dry conditions, and it's basically relearning all over again, isn't it?
He was nearly exploring the gravel trap there, Hal, wasn't he? I was absolutely amazed and a bit disappointed about turn 1 with Hapamäki. The electric car with the torque coming in so quickly off the line. In the dry, yeah, you go, okay, ace, I'll take that. I think I can beat the supercars. But I wasn't necessarily expecting in the damp conditions them to get away like that. He destroyed them off the line.
I don't think we've seen the best of the starts yet either. We haven't seen enough of them for them to be consistent enough. But like you say, Andrew, brilliant start from him. Really unlucky to get fired off and turned around in the first corner by the slight contact with Hedström. And that we see that so often, don't we, when one car runs deep and Bakkerud's getting badly held up here behind Fuchik. Bakkerud's already jokered, remember.
Bakkerud having so much more pace down the hill. You could see him in the break. Fuchik's run really wide. That'll let Bakkerud through. See you later. Backward will have known he was coming, and he's left the braking late because he didn't want to get collected, as he'll have known Fucic's trajectory. You just get used to that as a driver. You see a car spin in front of you, and I think people sometimes say, well, how did you know which way to go? You know as a general rule whether it's going to come back at you or leave the road on the outside, exit stage left.
Backward using all of his experience to, like you say, but also to run the car through the middle of the corner, which doesn't allow the guy behind to either go outside or inside. You're sort of covering the whole road, even though you've only got the width of a single car. He's closing on Höljes. Has he got? Is that just inputs into the steering, or is there something wrong with the front left? No, I think I'm making that up. It looks okay from this angle, doesn't it?
It's okay to make stuff up, mate. That's absolutely fine. Peter Hedstrom down the hill. We always have to have a stab at what we can see from the comms box, from our windows and from our little screen in front of us. 50-inch tellies would be nice. Hedstrom waiting on the throttle backward too. Backward yesterday, Hal was saying about how he was overworking the tyres. Now he's going to, let's see what he does with Hedstrom. I think he's close enough. Hedstrom's going to go Joker. Watch for backward on the inside line. He said the car was I think he's going to easily do this. Look at this.
Hasn't he?
That's really, really well done. Yeah, Hal, he was saying yesterday about the temperature in the tyres, and you just have to be careful because the torque is so high and you can develop so much wheel spin. The weight's a little bit more. You have to manage the tyres. And I wonder if these conditions are maybe better for him.
Yeah, I think you won't over. I'm convinced there's something wrong with that front left. When he goes over the crest, it looks like it's got a lot of positive, a lot of toe in to me. But anyway, yeah, I think the wet conditions will certainly help cool the tyres, won't they? And you're not working the tyre necessarily quite as hard, especially when it's deep gravel and very wet conditions.
Andreas Backward won a heat race on Thursday in dry conditions. Waits for the conditions, he gets one today, and I think that's impressive. Harper-Mackie got the best of the starts, but has dropped a long way down the order. There he is coming through behind Fucic, and Choo Choo crosses the line P5. But Fraser McConnell has won the session. Absolutely brilliant drive from the Jamaican in terrible conditions. Great drive by Backward too in the electric car. 3:36. So hard for us to know what the track's doing. We'll go and talk to the drivers. With the format today, me and Hal can actually leave the commentary box and go and talk to some people, because on Thursday, I think we were on air for 8.5 hours. We had about 20 minutes break during the day. I was nearly dead. Yeah, Hal might be right there. Yes, front left does look slightly odd, doesn't it?
Little green light in the washers don't seem to, or maybe you don't just pull the washer a little bit. The little green light in the front of the dashboard there, and you see on the side window, just showing that the car's safe, because the electric cars have warning lights for the marshals and the drivers to know when they're in different states of charge. Yeah,
incredibly high voltage in those cars, and they have to know that it's safe to touch the car if they need to recover it, or if they need to climb out the car in the event of a retirement. Wow. Okay, RX2E. We've got our first, what are we calling this? I was calling it a celebrity race yesterday, but Andreas Eriksson has named it the Super Team Challenge, which is fine. And we have got team lineups for you. So they've withdrawn one of the cars, and that's because they need to do some testing mileage with it. It's become quite popular doing some laps in an RX2E, as you can imagine. Lots of drivers want to get their head around the electric cars. But let me give you the team lineups. Team number 1 is Andreas Backerud, Kevin Eriksson and Anton Markland. Team number 2 is Marcus Gronholm. Yes,
Okay, you're right, Andrew. There isn't a weak driver among them, and it's going to be absolutely fascinating. Not only are they driving the car, there's 3 drivers per car, but the other drivers who aren't in the car for any one race then have to spot for the driver that's in it. I'm looking forward to this.
I am as well. Our first race, I think we're having a little break. Okay, we're gonna bring the electrical race slightly later on for you. I think they want to get on with the track maintenance and make sure that we can keep up with the schedule, because we've got both Swedish Rallycross and Nordic RX here. But just to let you know, that first grid is going to include Marcus Gronholm, Andreas Backerud and Timmy Hansen. So if you want to see an electric rallycross race with some incredible names in it, you best stick around later on for the action. We'll get it squeezed into one of the other, I'm sure.
Follow RallyX, smash like and subscribe.
Smash like, subscribe down here. Boom.